I also hope that for companies in Europe, for citizens in Europe, this is kind of a wake-up call.
Welcome to the 7th season of In Check with Fintech by PCN. This season, we're thrilled to bring you exclusive insights from some of the most influential leaders in the fintech world. Get ready for candid conversations as they share their personal journeys from career-defining highs to the toughest challenges they faced. We'll also dive deep into the game-changing impact of AI, the latest industry trends, and what the future holds for fintech innovation. So, buckle up and stay tuned for an exciting season ahead. On this episode of In Check with Fintech, we're excited to feature Jan-Willem van der Schoot, Country Manager of Mastercard Netherlands. Jan-Willem has been at the helm of the company's Dutch office since April 2020, while his journey with Mastercard initially began in 2012. In his current role as Country Manager, he is motivated to make payments as simple, smart, and accessible as possible together with their team of experts and partners. Jan-Willem's biggest passion? Making a tangible difference in people's daily lives and changing things for the better. Enjoy listening.
Why is doing business in the US so important to you?
Well, for me, it's very important for a few reasons. First of all, I mean, we are living in a world which is global, which has many countries, and one of the bigger countries is the US. I've always worked for US companies. Actually, that's by coincidence.
Yeah.
But what I've learned is that it's extremely important that with many cultures, you have to make sure the relationships are good, both culturally but also trade relationships. Yeah, and as I've been working for a US company, this is something that, I foster now a bit more. Also, because if you look at our investment climate, I think the US is our biggest investor in the Netherlands. We are one of the biggest investors in the US. So from that perspective, I think keeping up a good transatlantic relationship is important, not only for prosperity, but also for peace and happiness.
How do you look then at the current developments when it comes to Europe, their competitive position versus the US? Is that something that you have a strong opinion on?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that keeps us busy, of course, also during the day. And I think it's extremely vital that we keep the relationships as open as possible. But we also must not ignore that, of course, countries are looking at their best interest. Europe is looking at their best interest. I'm of the opinion that in our world, the biggest successes have always been made when working together. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, we cannot do it alone. Nobody can do it alone. And I truly believe that, we can show as an industry that working together across cultures is something that, in the end, is the best for the users of all the products and services that we bring to the market.
I think it's interesting. What I'm trying to get at is obviously Draghi from the European Central Bank talking about the competitive position of Europe compared to the US.
Yeah.
Right? I think US is, because of all their tech investments, so much stronger than Europe right now. And Europe has maybe rested on their laurels a bit somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, Europe, I've seen the report. I didn't read it. I think it was too big to read from me, but I've seen the report and the news reports around it. I mean, it's quite clear that the investment climate and the innovation climate in the US, but also in other parts of the world, has been a bit ahead of what Europe has been doing. Yeah. And I think it's very good that Draghi made that very clear and very tangible. And now, I also hope that for companies in Europe, for citizens in Europe, this is kind of a wake-up call that things are not for granted. And the world is going fast. And as Europe, we need to make sure that we're on top of this and that we keep on innovating. And that we also make it easier for companies to innovate and to bring their products and services in a good way to the market.
Yeah, well, I don't want to make this too political, but I was just curious of your kind of opinion of it all. Because like you said, you've worked predominantly for US companies, right? Started in IBM.
Yeah.
Now you've been at Mastercard since 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say is the most important decision over your long living career that got you where you are today?
I mean, there are many decisions actually also which I didn't plan for, which kind of came across my path and were very important for me. That started already when working for IBM. I never thought I would work for IBM up to the moment I did an internship at a company that was making automated guided vehicles. I mean, we're speaking back in 2002 about that time. And I did an assignment for them, interviewed their customers in the US and in Europe. And the owner of the company said, look, because he learned from me that I really wanted to go and work for, let's say, in a more commercial role. I didn't want to become a consultant or a banker. So I said, well, if you really want to learn that, you have to start at IBM. So that's why I kind of decided to apply for a job at IBM, and I was hired. I wasn't a techie, but I've learned there a lot. Also at IBM, one of our managers said, look, you have to do an MBA because otherwise you'll get bored. So I started to do an MBA. Which gave extremely new insights and a boost to my career as well. And then after 10 years, I thought at IBM, it's a great company, but I don't want to retire there. And then Mastercard came across. And I still remember when I left IBM, one of the managing directors said, look, Jan-Willem, that's a dead business model. It's not going anywhere. Why you do this? But I thought, look, I just need to move on. I thought I'd like the company. And also within Mastercard, I've learned that by just doing your work well, working hard, being proactive, you in the end get where you are. So not like, let's say, one or two big decisions, but I think it's mentality. It's willing to work, willing to take risk, willing to speak up, and be proactive. And those are the things which, I think helped me a lot in my career. But I was never, let's say, on a path to make a career or whatsoever. I just wanted to make sure that I would make some steps, like the work, and add value.
It sounds like you at least had a vision by going to an internship for a self-driven vehicle company, right? What was that like back in 2002?
Yeah, so I would not say I was a visionary by then. Also, that was kind of by accident. It was an amazing company, actually. They were making vehicles that were driving in the ports to pick up containers, or in factories, at General Motors, for example, that were bringing parts to the assembly line. And with the knowledge of today, what they've done was extremely ahead of their time, and also the way how they approached it, and what my assignment was very much linked to what we see now in this world. A lot about platforms, and that's what we see right now as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there is a red thread, maybe somewhat at least, platforms to IBM, a tech company, and now Mastercard.
Yeah,
obviously.
Perhaps, but it's again. I was always doing the jobs because I liked it. I think that's most important in the end.
Yeah. What about your personal life? I mean, managing the Netherlands for Mastercard is obviously a busy job. How do you combine your private life versus your working life? Do you have to choose one or the other, or?
You always have to choose. So unfortunately, I have to choose, because if you're not choosing anymore, I think you're on the wrong path. So my wife and myself have always been working full time. And we got two kids, they're now 13 and 15. They've been younger as well. So that's making decisions. That's making decisions together. Okay, planning is very important. My wife was traveling a lot for her work in the past as well. So that was sometimes extremely tough to find a way out. Get good support. So we've had a great childcare. We had with kindergarten. We had part-time nannies who were there a few days a week for our kids. But we always said, look, we want to make sure that we are there as well. We make a combination, and that means that during the week it can be quite hectic. It can be very hectic, but the weekends are really for us. But it's about making decisions, saying no sometimes, and there are always a few times a year when you both have something that you really want to do, but you can't. So one of you has to choose, and that's what we do. But in the end, I think we manage well. Now the kids are a bit older, so that makes it a bit easier as well. But then you still have to watch out that you're, let's say, not abuse that and are both away too often from home. But I'm super happy that we've done this together, not only with my wife but also with the kids. That's never easy, but that's also part of the, let's say, investment of having a job which you really like.
So true. Yeah. Well, it's interesting for me because I have a son which is only 2 years old, but I already can see that we have to make some decisions, and you indeed bump into walls, so to speak.
And it depends on your employer as well. So my wife used to work very long for IKEA, which was a very good employer. They were very well in planning, for example, so we always knew what was coming at us. Within IBM and Mastercard, I've always been able to work a bit more flexible. That's helped. That helps as well.
You're now a leader, obviously, in Mastercard. You did your MBA back in IBM, you said, right?
When I worked at IBM, yeah.
Was that where you also had your first leadership position?
That was also where I had my first leadership position, yeah.
What was your biggest learn when you first became a leader? Do you remember?
People are not, are not the same, and they're not like you are. And everybody has a challenge, and it can be very often a challenge which you, don't know if you work with someone, but which you learn to know or get to hear when somebody really works for you. And it can be extremely difficult, but sometimes, but that's also how it is. You work with people, and people, are who they are. And it's so you have to find a way to accept it, a way to work with it, but also find a way to keep on challenging the people on the things they are doing. And finding that balance, I think that was in my first job, I think the hardest. That literally ranged from people who are very spiritual and who really want to sit at a certain desk because they said that's the best place because of where the sun is. And literally to people who just said, look, I want to make a career, so I need to make a promotion. And I thought, oh my God, look, don't we first have to see what you can do and can't do before we even look at those things? So, but you learn by doing. And I think I've been very lucky to be a leader always for, let's say, people who are professionals. So that are people who, let's say, have experience with having a leader. I know people who started leadership by, for example, managing a group of younger people, or even in a supermarket, for example. And I think that's already totally different. But you learn by doing. That's for sure.
I can definitely relate to that. I think if management or leadership, although they're two different things, would be easy, then anyone could be doing it, right?
Yeah, but to be honest, I think everybody could be doing it in the end. However, I think there's a difference between a manager and a leader. I think it's very good that everybody learns to manage and learns to have people reporting into me because that's a responsibility. Yeah. And I think that makes them better people. But the next step towards leadership is one which I probably only took in this role in the end. Because that's more than just managing a team and making sure that they accomplish a task or an objective. That's also include things like giving a vision, being able to speak both high level and but also into detail, and very important, make sure that people want to work with you and get them on your bandwagon, so to say.
You always have a responsibility, right? People look up to you, and they'll probably see you as exemplary as well in terms of how the organization is, or in your case, how Mastercard is.
And in our case as well. We are now in the office in Amsterdam here. That's our office in the Netherlands, our only office in the Netherlands. Our headquarters for Europe is in Belgium. Our headquarter globally is in the US, near New York. We got big offices in London, for example. But many people in this office have never been to another office than the Dutch office, or to maybe even a bigger office, or to a headquarters somewhere. So for them, I'm kind of Mastercard in a way. We are just over 100 people, 125 people here. So that means that people who are here expect from me, and I think they're right, that I can tell them a bit more about why Mastercard is making some decisions, what our strategy is like, for example, and how that can relate to their work. So that's an important part of my job as well. Yeah.
Talking a bit about Mastercard, you joined back in 2012 from IBM. Do you remember why you joined Mastercard at the time?
The prime reason I said earlier is that I thought after 10 years of IBM, it's time to move on. I'd seen too many people there retire at IBM or get their 25-year gold watches. And it was and still is an amazing company. I've learned a lot there. But for me, it was just time to move on and do something differently. I didn't want to stay in the pure IT sector. So yes, the likes of HP, Oracle, Salesforce, Microsoft, they were definitely open to get me on board after 10 years at IBM. But I really wanted to do that because for me, that was kind of doing the same. And then Mastercard came across. I wasn't even aware they had an office in the Netherlands. I had a few meetings with them, some interviews, and I thought, it looked nice. IBM had 5,000 people in the Netherlands, Mastercard 12. I thought, that's a nice change. Let's just try it and see how it will go.
All right, so it wasn't a purposely chosen career
No.
in payments or anything
No,
like that?
not at all,
Okay.
to be honest. I mean, I've always worked with banks when I was at IBM, so I knew the sector. That helped a lot and was also one of the reasons for Mastercard to hire me.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a clue about payments, and to be honest, it took me 3 years to fully grasp and understand it. And that's annoying after the first half year, because then you think you know everything. Payments is complex. There's a lot of history. It's very local. It's different in the Netherlands than it is from Belgium. So you really need to take the time. But definitely the first half year, 9 months wasn't easy. I've had my doubts then because it was a lot, and it wasn't a world where I felt in the beginning very comfortable in, because it was so much. But after the first year, I started to like it, and now I love it.
Do you remember what caught your attention to go to Mastercard back in 2012 in terms of its position on the payments market? Did you have a strong opinion on that at all?
No, I didn't have a strong opinion. I knew a bit what was happening. I mean, this was a time when we still paying with a Mac stripe, and we started to use the chip which we dipped in the machine. I knew what credit cards were. I wasn't aware before I had my interviews at XT Mastercard was growing very big in the debit space. I mean, I liked the people. I liked the fact that it was a small company. And I like the fact, and that's what I learned already quite early in the interview stage, is that at IBM, at that time, I worked a lot, let's say, on more the technical side of my customers, and less on the business side. While at Mastercard, we work a lot with the people at the business side, because we are part of a proposition of our customers, or we can help them, let's say, grow their business and serve their customers better. And I think that's what I liked the most, and that was also the case when I started. But it was okay for me also to, if I didn't like it at Mastercard, to leave and find something else. I mean, having worked 10 years at IBM, I mean, you can always go back to any IT company and restart your career from there. So it was definitely a risk, but it was, a very calculated risk, to be honest.
Luckily, you made it through. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here. I think 12 years later. So that's good. Thanks for sticking in. I think it's impressive to see Mastercard. Obviously, they started back in 1966. Yeah. I think as one of the first kind of card network providers. I mean, let's not go back to payments what it was like in 1966.
It's interesting, by the way. I can give hours lecture on this, but
let's talk about today. I mean, it's still at the forefront of payments, right? It's one of the most important players within the payments ecosystem. Yeah. How does it do that?
In those, well, it's almost 60 years since we were established, a lot of things were happening. I mean, it's crazy if you look back how we started then with cardboard cards, and where we are now with mobile phones that bear tokens. And that's only the payment side, because as a company we moved way beyond payments. It's a constant focus on innovation and improving the experience for the users. So let's call them the cardholders, the experience for the merchants, and also the experience for our customers, our direct customers, which are actually financial institutions who either have consumers who they want to give a payment card, or financial institutions who enable merchants to pay with a card. And that constant focus, of course, supported by technology, I think that's what made the difference for us. I mean, I've said before, and I'll dare to say it again. If the term fintech existed back 60 years ago, they would call us a fintech, and I think that's still kind of the case, because we can exist because of technology. Because of the fact that we enable technology in the right way, because we have been able to break a chicken and egg problem at some point. And we've been able not only to scale that in a way, but also make sure that for the whole value chain there's value. There's value for everybody. There's value for the consumer, because they have a safe way to pay. There's value for the merchant, because they know that they get their money. and they get it electronically, no worries about what happens with the physical cash. They also know that if somebody comes from Amsterdam, from Athens, or from Atlanta, they can pay. There's value for the banks because they can offer that next to their other products. I mean, we always work through banks, so we're not competing with banks. So for a bank, that means that they can offer their merchant a card terminal, but also a loan. There's the same for banks who send the cards to consumers. They can give them a card, but also a savings account or a mortgage is part of the package. So there's value for, let's say, for everybody in there. And I think that's part of our success. And we've been able to adapt that throughout the years by making sure that the network is as safe as possible. We use the latest technology, and we keep up with the expectations of the consumer and the merchants in terms of, let's say, technology. And that went very fast, especially the past 10 years. I said 12 years ago, we probably finished paying with Max Stripes in the Netherlands. And today, 90% of all transactions are done with the contactless cards. Half of them are done with Apple Pay or Google Pay. That's a complete shift in only 10, 12 years.
How many percent did you say is doing?
So half of all contactless transactions.
Yeah, how many contactless transactions are there?
Give me the numbers. So from all transactions in the Netherlands, 20% is done with cash, so in stores. The rest is done with a card. Of these card transactions, almost 9 out of 10 are done with in a contactless way. Almost half of them, with Apple Pay or Google Pay. The other half with the physical card.
Do you know why people still choose to not pay tap by phone?
Yeah, definitely. So, let's say the 10% are primarily people who, just aren't used to do it, or in their perception, they feel safer if they do it that way. Or they think that, for example, above 50 euros, they only can dip a card, which is, by the way, not the case. So that's a prime reason. And the reason why people, use Apple Pay and Google Pay, the prime reason is so paying with a mobile phone is because of the fact that it's so easy, so smart, and simple. And they have the mobile phone with them, and the wallet. Well, that's always another step. Finding your wallet, getting your card out. Yeah, it goes super easy.
I never take my wallet anymore.
No, and that's what we hear more and more. Again, we are happy that people can choose, so that they can pay with cash, they can pay with a card, with a mobile phone. I think that's the prime reason that we are offering everything, because people need to make sure that they can choose what they want. We need to make sure that we keep up together with our partners with the demands of the consumer, and these demands are growing because they're used to use the latest technology, because that now is all in their phone. So payments is part of that.
Yeah, and I think Mastercard is so much more than a pure payments player these days, right? Having acquired cybersecurity companies, identity companies. You've diversified somewhat, let's say.
Well, somewhat. I think we diversified very significantly. So we're not a credit card payments company anymore. We do debit and credit cards. That's already one. That's a difference between, some decades ago. Next to that, we've grown very significantly into services. And that's a very wide range of services. So on the one hand, we are a big consulting company in payments as well. So we do a lot of consulting assignments also in the Netherlands with our customers, literally from banks, but also with big retailers and government. We are a company that's very strong in security and cybersecurity. Of course, we've always tried to secure transactions and put a lot of technology in that, but we now also go way beyond into preventing cybersecurity, into helping our banks to make decisions on transactions, and by doing that, making sure that we prevent fraud and use the latest technology, both before, during, and after the transactions. But we're also a big loyalty company. We've bought the loyalty arm of McDonald's 2.5 years ago. And that's now a company that called Dynamic Yield, which is in hyper-personalization. And that helps billions and billions times a year people to make decisions and steer decisions in a way which is good for the, let's say, for the buyer and for the seller. So it's super wide next to we sit in open banking, we sit in identity. So as a company, we now do way more. I mean, I was talking with banks when I started 12 years ago. Now I speak literally with retailers, with corporates, with different forms of financial institutions. So it's the company changed a lot. Payments is still our core, but we now do way more.
Yeah, so I mean, you also do quite a bit when it comes to growing the fintech community, right? With your Mastercard for Fintechs program. I think recently in the Netherlands you had the finales last week.
Yeah, so we do a lot with fintechs globally. We have several programs where we help fintechs in the different stages of their growth. I mean, we got some great examples of the ones we've supported in the past. I mean, Revolut, for example, was one of the earlier participants in one of our global programs many years ago, and also in the Netherlands we have a Mastercard for Fintechs program. It's actually a European program, which is a program where we really want to help a few fintechs in making the next step. So we've done a selection, and we've had our Amsterdam finals about 3 weeks ago, which was extremely exciting. We had 3 winners from the Netherlands and from Belgium. Companies who are in commercial payments, companies who are setting up a new bank, or companies who can help merchants in streamlining their pricing, for example.
What were their names of the 3 companies?
So we got Pay for You, who are in commercial payments. We got Go Dutch, who are for setting up a new SME bank in a new, let's say, in a new and off the way.
Great
We
name.
got Fintech, who are from Belgium. And who are helping indeed all kinds of companies who get a lot of bills with a lot of lines to streamline that as well. And that's especially interesting for payments companies. They will go to the European finals, which are in Paris in about a month's time, so end of November. And there we'll select one European winner. And again, this is something we'd love to. We just don't want to organize an event and that's it. So also the Dutch winners will get support, both financially and also from mentoring from us and from some partners, because we really want to be with them on their journey. Of course, the European winner will join a global program, and they got some extra financial support. But we've shown in Europe globally, but also in the Netherlands, that we are actually the partner for choice for many fintechs. And again, it's not something just where we just put some money in and that's it. No, we really want to be there for them and support them in their growth. And that's why we've started also a local program. And I can't wait for the finals in Paris and truly hope that we have a Dutch winner this year.
How do you support them then? Through the mentoring you mentioned. I think I saw on the website access to fintech training tools, right?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, so we have a lot of tools because we have many global programs. So that's where they get access to these online environments. We have also some local partnerships here where they can get tools and some education. And we have a dedicated fintech person here in Amsterdam, Heval, and she's amazing. I must say, in working with the fintechs. And I also want to say, if you are in that area, if you think Mastercard can be a partner, or if you just only want to catch up and check some things with us, reach out to me through LinkedIn or to Heval through LinkedIn, and we'll be pointing you in the right direction.
I think that Mastercard is a dominant player in the market is an understatement. To be fair, what do you think is the biggest threat, from what you see in the market, what do you think is the biggest threat today to this dominance? Because being dominant is great. It's that you're dominant, which is great, but it also means that there's a lot of other companies who want to take over your position, right?
I mean, again, dominant, I think for me is not the right word. I mean, we are a strong player in payments. I mean, globally, we are definitely not the biggest. In Europe, we are one of the leaders, like in the Netherlands. But it also depends on how you look at it. I mean, in the Netherlands, we are not very big in e-commerce, for example. There are other alternatives there. In the countries like Belgium or France or Germany, there are domestic payment solutions present as well. And for us, it's not just by by growing and want to be the biggest or the best or whatsoever. I mean, that's not very important. It's about making sure that we add value throughout the chain. And I think that's something that we've shown the past years that we can do. I mean, if you look at the data, the Netherlands is one of the cheapest countries in Europe for merchants to accept electronic payments. We are also one of the most innovative countries. The reason is that we are willing as a company to invest in the market and into technology. I think that's for us is most important. And as long as we can bring the value, we are confident that financial institutions, banks, retailers like to work with us, and that's what our prime focus is.
It's good to get that context and get a bit of a better insight. Is there things then right now you keep an extra good eye on with regards to recent developments?
Yeah, in payments, always things are happening. We've seen the past 10 years, payment solutions come and payment solutions go. The role of PSPs and acquirers is now extremely different. We see in Europe, of course, now digital euro. We see Ideal being acquired by European Payments Initiative. So definitely things we keep an eye on. We try to be open also towards them. There is for us, it's very clear we are open for business because we also know that the success in payments cannot be done on your own. So we're not closing our eyes to what we see and what's happening in Europe, and we see that, by the way, also in other areas. However, our focus will always be on being an open partner and making sure that we can add value towards everybody in the payments chain.
You speak about EPI. I think there's a few initiatives now trying to offer an alternative payment network. Do you personally think there's a need for that in today's environment?
It's not about if there's a need for that, yes or no. I mean that's not.
I like to get your personal opinion.
That's not relevant. That's not relevant. No, but I definitely see what's happening in the different countries. We acknowledge the fact that there might be a need by some parties in the payments ecosystem, but we'll see what happens, because it's super early right now to say, look, this will be a success or will not be a success, or what will Mastercard's role will be when they are there. Our role became more and more relevant over the past years, and I think how we've done that will be the same or similar as we will do that into the future, by making sure that we add the value for the chain. And my biggest concern at this moment is to make sure that as an industry we keep up with the demands of the consumer, because competition is everywhere. It's not about the players just mentioned, but we also see the big techs who might want to play a role left or right. And we want to be a partner for our customers, and that's always the financial institutions. I think we're on the same boat with them, and that's what we'd like to continue. Yeah,
exactly. I think indeed. I think you mentioned at the beginning as well of this show. You talked about collaboration and how it is important across the US and Europe.
Yeah.
As part of being the American Chamber of Commerce for the Netherlands, but also in the payment space, right? Whether you work together with big techs or
it is. And again, also with big techs, sometimes I've had the conversation with banks like, hey, why are you working together with Apple or with Google or with Facebook? For us, it's very clear why we do that, because we want to protect the interest of ourselves, but also the interest of our customers. And in all those cases, it's better to have a seat at the table than to be spoken about. And we've seen the success there as well. Apple launched Apple Pay with partners like ourselves, because they probably thought, I don't know, I haven't spoken to them about that, but that was the biggest chance of success, which indeed was the case. Amazon in many countries issues cards with us but they're also a merchant. So we have let's say a joint goal, definitely to make sure that their consumers and their users can shop as frictionless and as safe as possible. So that's always there. So the stakeholder field is so wide that we have to look beyond what's happening just within the banks.
What are the things I'd like to zoom in a little bit more on when you speak about staying relevant within the payment space? Is kind of your involvement in OVPay. It's obviously quite big. Maybe we can talk a bit about that journey. It went live, I think, January this year?
No, January last year.
Yeah.
So it feels already
time flies.
Very recently, but it was indeed the start of 2023.
Exactly.
When the whole country was live.
Yeah. How did that come about? I'm sure that's probably you didn't start discussions a year before that, but how did that come about?
So this is a super long project in the end. I think it's taken 7 years from literally the moment that there was likely we need to do something up to the moment that the whole country was live. And something, by the way, also as a small country to be very proud of, and that we've done with many companies together. In 2012, there were the Olympics in London. You might remember that. That was the moment that London was kind of open loop, so you could tap in and tap out with your card in London. Yeah. Of course, that got attention, but it was only London.
That was 2012, I think, right?
I think 2012, yeah. Well, a few years later, it was quite clear that there were other cities interested globally as well. And the Netherlands, of course, with their OV chip card infrastructure, had a big interest also in that solution as well. Getting from the moment, hey, I think there's something that we might want to have, up to the moment where we are now, has been extreme challenging a few years.
What was the most challenging? Do you remember any specific?
There are many. First, you have many stakeholders. We have got 12, 13 public transit operators in the Netherlands with over 20 concessions. And every concession also is different. Then we have so you need to manage those stakeholders with each other. Then you have, of course, the hardware. So we're in this room. This is our mobility hub. If you don't see the video, it's a room where we have some solutions live around paying in transit. I think Netherlands has 50, 60,000 of these validators which you put your card against. They weren't ready to accept EMV cards. So that's something that you have to manage as well. Then it needs to work. It needs to work. So every positive use case needs to work, but also every negative use case needs to work. What happens if you don't have enough funds in your account? How do you make sure that blocked cards are not entering the train station? How do you do inspection, for example? So how does someone who inspects your ticket knows that you checked in, yes or no? So these are all challenges. Translink did an amazing job there, I must say, in leading that. With many companies, we were part of that. But of course, for us, it was very important to get it live because it was another use case for cards. So it's a whole combination. It were many ups, many downs, things that worked seamlessly, things that didn't work, and nobody knew why it didn't work. But I think with great people and with partnership and with a common goal, it went live. And it's unique. There's no other country in the world where it's live throughout the country. Yeah, perhaps Singapore, but that's one public transit operator. But definitely not one country where you can step in Maastricht in the train and exit in Groningen and pay the whole journey with your card and go with the bus or with the tram or with the ferry. It's all there.
What's next for that? Now you can pay by card. Can you pay at some point with your subscription as well that you have?
It's already the next phase there is live. One of the many next phases. So there are already cities in the Netherlands where certain discounts, if you're under a certain age or above a certain age, can be linked to your card. That's already and live. So that's definitely the next one. The over-chip card will be replaced as well. So that's people will see who have an over-chip card will see that change happening as well. That will also go to new technology. And maybe someday. And I think that they will come, and I don't think it will take many years. You also be able to put your train subscription or your over student card or all those products on your card or in your it's either a digital card in your phone or your physical card which is in your wallet. It's all technically possible. That's not the thing. I think the biggest challenge always is how to make it work also for people who are using it every day. And especially all these use cases like, okay, what happens if I lose my card, or what happens if I use another card, or what happens if I don't have enough funds. All these things, I mean, those are always harder things, and you need to get every possible customer journey right before you can go live. But I think again, Translink is an amazing company who leads that very well here in the Netherlands with us and many other partners.
Because I guess one of the biggest stakeholders to manage is the consumers themselves. They probably have their own preferences.
I mean that's not really. But that you can do a lot with marketing and the right communication, and we see that helps a lot. But of course, this is all very new. Yeah. Also, I mean, I think we must praise the public transit operators in the Netherlands who were daring to take this step and do this, because they're also not like payment experts, and for them it's also very new, these steps. So these were really some bold moves, but in the end everybody kept, let's say, the vision of how people can tap in and tap out in the most easy way in the back of their minds. And it helps, and I think we can say that people are now, because it's more easy. Let's say we have a lower barrier for them to take a train, tram, bus, or metro, and that also helps in the end the environment. And that's I mean, this is then a, let's say, relatively simple investment to make sure that people less take the car when they go somewhere and easily hop on a tram, train, bus, or metro.
There's an impact beyond kind of a user experience or an easy way to pay in public transport.
We still have to investigate the exact numbers there, because that's what everybody wants to know. We're not there yet. That's hopefully coming. But if I hear it from people around me, if it's now more and more travel guys, that people know if you arrive at Schiphol Airport, just take the train to the city center. I always like the example of Money 2020. Well, you've been there also a few times. I've made pictures in 2022 in the RAI. I think that was the same year that we had Cybos in the RAI. And the RAI is a fantastic place above a metro station. Both these years, there was a huge queue at the ticket machine on the first day, because people came in, they went straight to the venue, then they took the trolley back from the cloakroom, and then they had to go to the hotel, and there were huge queues. Well, I know what I would do at that moment if the queue was there. I would walk to a taxi and take a taxi. Yeah. As of 2023, the queues were gone on the first day, because people knew that they just could their card, tap in, take the metro, go to their hotel. And I think that's, in our world, the clearest example that if you open up, you lower the barrier and people start using a very efficient way of transport, and that's very often public transport.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. The fact that it is possible, seeing it in London, I was hoping it would go live in the Netherlands soon enough, which has now been over a year. So that's really good. If we zoom out a little bit, we didn't really speak about it yet, and I didn't hear you mention it, but I'm sure it's high on the agenda, AI.
Yeah.
What's kind of Mastercard's approach to AI?
Yeah, I mean, that's already a very wide question.
I know.
I mean, AI is in there also in our company for years and years. Of course, especially with the next iteration of generative AI. I mean, things accelerated, and also for users, it suddenly became something real. I mean, for us, the main reason to jump into this topic is, of course, to drive better insights and actions, both for banks, but also for cardholders, for everybody. And it's used literally throughout the organization. I mean, we use it, I use it in my daily work with Copilot, who is a great help sometimes in preparing meetings or summarizing documents. If you look at, let's say, how do we use it in our technology in our ecosystem in many ways. So, I mean, probably one of the earliest cases was indeed fraud. I mean, that's where the first AI networks were used, and I think that only accelerated over the past years. So we have platforms that score transactions, and we give that score towards our banks, and based on those scores, banks can decide if they want to approve or decline a transaction. These are all based around AI, and all based around using all the data that's possible, letting data do the work to give a score, and prevent indeed also fraud. I think this system alone, the last 12 months, prevented over 20 billion euros in fraud. I mean, it runs over 140 billion transactions. So those are huge numbers. But again, this is not all. I mean, if you also look at another solution that we're having, I think one of the examples, what I really like is dynamic yield. So that's this loyalty company we acquired from McDonald's. Yeah, why is Mastercard buying a loyalty company from McDonald's? Well, because it's in an area which is important for us and for our customers. That's about making decisions. It's about bringing the best option for a consumer forward, or advising consumer based on what they want or what they need. So Dynamic Yield is a company that helps retailers, for example, with that, by making sure that websites or apps or even in-store terminals are personalized. I mean, it helped over 2.5 billion on average in annual revenue over all our customers in various industries in a year's time. It does so by giving personalized impressions. In 2023, it gave 371 billion impressions for over 450 brands globally. I mean, those are numbers which are staggering, which are huge. And that's, I mean, a few years ago, it wouldn't be something that I thought that we would be doing. But again, AI makes that happen. We now have a solution called Shopping Muse, which first fashion retailers are using. And that's literally, and I've seen it. It's now live at a couple of retailers. I've seen how it works. It literally is, look, you type in, I have a party tomorrow night from my work. I'm a consultant. What should I wear? And then it gives options. And so, well, maybe something less fancy, more fancy, and basically gives. It comes with option. It's like interacting basically with a shopping assistant there. And that's what I find quite unique from a company that's in payments. We're also doing those things. But again, it will help merchants. It will enable transactions, and it uses the latest and the greatest with AI. So there are many use cases where we use it, but I think these two are maybe the most tangible and relevant next to so many others, both more visible and less visible. And that's what I like also about this company. We try to be in the forefront of these things. So think about it as well when we are working with new technologies. The same we do with the likes of GDPR, for example. I think we are a company and one of the few not only is compliant for, of course, which we have to do around GDPR in Europe, which is a European thing, but we said, look, we like GDPR, so let's not apply GDPR internally only for Europe, let's do it globally. So at least we are very clear in what we do and how we deal with data and data privacy.
You got an example role to set as well, right? So I think this is why this is so important. Yeah,
I think that's and that makes also very clear and also very easy.
Yeah,
sometimes it means that probably you have to say no in some regions if some initiatives are brought up. But on the other hand, it makes it very easy for a company because we've taken probably the standard in data privacy as our standard. And it also means that we're always, let's say, on the right side.
A subtopic in AI close to my heart is jobs. Do you think it will change jobs?
It will change jobs, definitely. I mean, but the typewriter also changed jobs, and the personal computer also changed jobs. And I will. I mean, it's changing my job already, and for the better, because I can be more efficient. I mean, was it last week? Yeah, last week I had a meeting with a professor in payments, and he wrote a long paper about the topic. And actually, I didn't read it well before I went to see him. But I said it to him, by the way, as well. So this will not be a secret to him. And I just dragged it into Copilot and said, look, make a summary of this. What is it? 10, 20, not page academic article. And it gave, and I said, look, what's the impact from this and this? And it gave a clear summary. And I said to him also, look, I didn't have time, but found very interesting. This is what we came back with, and that's totally fine to do it if that's the occasion. But it's the same for writing pieces of text. It will be different, but also, even making videos, editing videos. It will change people's jobs, but I'm a true believer that it will change it in the end for the better. That people can be more efficient, and was very lucky to be at Wharton Business School about a year ago. I think this month, exactly a year ago, where we discussed the topic at length, and that was again a year ago. And there, one of the professors was also very clear. He said, "Look, in the end, it's kind of the dumb work in the middle that's not done for you. But again, AI will not work without solid input. It will not work if you can't assess literally the outcome and know what to do with it." And they've done research, which I think was staggering. They've put all their studies, they put them into AI. They've put all the exams into AI, and I think on average, 78 to 80% scores were made by AI. So basically, they passed all the exams. So their take was, to all our MBA students, we say, look, you have to be more clever than AI, because otherwise AI can do your job for way and way less. So use it. They were also okay that students use it. No problem at all. But it's just a new way of working. And again, the hype is a bit less than we thought a year ago. On the other hand, many people who work now see the impact as well, because the likes of Copilot are more and more rolled out. So it will change the job, probably quite gradually. And maybe in 2 or 3 years' times, we're used to it, and we use it in the right way.
I feel like the key word here again is collaboration, right?
It's
collaboration with
but
AI.
Knowing what to do as well, and don't be afraid of it. And it's an example. Maybe I always started also with my career. You can't sit still and let it come to you. You have to be proactive on these topics. You have to be thinking about it, reading about it. 2 years ago, was it? Yeah, 2 years ago, we had our annual kickoff in January, almost 2 years ago. That's where I brought up AI, because that was like the Christmas, in the Christmas period, ChatGPT suddenly came up and it was accessible. And that was when I first introduced the topic to my team. Last year, I introduced it again during the kickoff with some examples of Copilot, and I'll probably do it again this year. Because people need to be aware that this is there, this is coming, and they have to just not be afraid of the tools, use it for the better, and be more productive and effective.
Yeah, I feel there's still a lot of education as well that needs to be done, which is typical, obviously, with new technologies. Yeah. But there's a lot of people, I think, afraid as well of their jobs being replaced. Whereas, as you said, there's many developments in the history where similar type of technologies came about, and we're still alive.
Many jobs will be replaced, but again, it's not it's not just the responsibility of your employer to then do something about it. It's yours as well. It's always a combination. But just sitting still and watching it come by and doing nothing, that's not what you should do.
Well, slowly have to move to a close. But I'm curious to maybe if you look ahead, right? What do you think if you look at payments, if you look at Mastercard's role within it, if you look at your role within payments, where do you think the industry is heading, or what is a development that you're very excited about?
A few things. I think the most important one, what we see currently, is tokenization. That's happening in payments now since a few years, and I think that's definitely something that will continue to be there. Tokenization makes it possible to put your card safe in Apple Pay or Google Pay, to use safe online, and to move towards a way more frictionless checkout. Every device can be a payment device if it's tokenized. It can be we can tokenize cars. We work a lot with Mercedes, for example, with other car manufacturers. So that's an important one, and that's what you'll see happening the coming years. Then the growth of acceptance. So in Netherlands, yes, you can pay almost everywhere. Globally, that's not the case. I mean, there are now 100 million acceptance locations globally. And 5 years ago, that was 50 million. So in 5 years, we've doubled our acceptance footprint, what we build up in, let's say, the first 50, 55 years. And that will probably go to other places. I mean, the Netherlands is now also transit. And I mean, there'll be many use cases where you might have not seen, let's say, a car payment happening, but it definitely will happen there. So that's definitely a big one which we will see as well. Then if you look at merchants, what they are looking for is a more integrated and seamless journey as well. So we have to look very well and have to work very close together with those merchants to make sure that we, on the one hand, enable a very seamless transaction flow, and on the other hand, keep the safety and security and control which consumers want. So in the whole e-commerce checkout, we'll see a lot of steps where it becomes more seamless and also more frictionless the coming years. Then, and I can go on, but I think cybersecurity AI, definitely one which will be on top of our list. And we've done a few acquisitions. And we probably, let's say, the ones we've recently done will not be the last one which we've been doing. That's a big area for us as well. And I think we'll play a bigger role in there as a company. And the last one, of course, is open banking. That's now there since 2017, 2018. I think the first years in open banking were very, were very slow. What you now see is if you can combine open banking with the right UX and the right use cases, then consumers start adopting it. I think a very local example here is what we've done with Bank. So with Bank, Bank has a great AI bot called Fin. You can ask Fin everything, literally from where did I bought my shoes in San Francisco, or where did I ate, or how much did I spend on food the last 3 months in Amsterdam. But it's only for all the accounts you have at Bank. But now we've helped them integrating also all the other banks in there. So as a consumer, you can authorize the loading all your other bank statements into the Bank app as well, and use the same AI technology over that. Up to a few years ago, actually up to last year, it was extremely clunky to do that. The UX was stupid, had to go through multiple screens. We found a way together with Bank to make it more seamless, more easy. And now it's literally a few clicks. I did it again yesterday or the day before yesterday. Super, super easy. And then suddenly the UX is good. The output helps because it literally helps you to manage your life. And then people started adopting that. So I think there we are only starting. It took some years, but definitely there you also see more and more developments. And most probably things will come at us which we just don't know yet. Yeah. Like a year ago, I've hardly heard from passkeys used in transactions. Now we're starting to launch that as well. So making sure that there is a passkey, which is a thingy in your phone that authenticates you, but it can also authenticate you seamlessly with merchants, making again the online checkout easier and more safe. And those things will come across, and we just need to be on our toes to see what's coming. But more importantly, we need to stay upfront as the leader in innovating new solutions which help consumers and businesses improve their life.
Lots to be excited about.
A lot, yeah.
Great, Jan-Willem. Thanks very much. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing your
insights.
Thanks for having me.